Oh, whoops. Hello everyone. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. I'm just going to check in you're here. This is the bothy. We had some rain forecast, but I'll show you. Oh, we've already lost a light. Here's some toilet roll, a laptop, and some Scottish mountains. I just went on a really fun walk to prepare this, and yeah, excited to be with you. Just going to rearrange some lights that fell off. So, you're here for me, and I'm going to check in with the laptop and just say hi to you on the chat. Hello, good to see you. Oh, thank you for joining me. It's always such a privilege to explore with you over the coming weeks. Really excited to explore and get deeper with you. I've been reading this wonderful book, and if you want to get ahead, The Web of Meaning by Jeremy Lent. The Web of Meaning by Jeremy Lent. I'll write it in the chat as well, which has been really cool, and I'm going to do kind of a series of videos on them and these live streams. So this week we're going to explore some Zhuangzi stories first. And yeah, on the theme of harmony. So yeah, cozy. I'm living here by myself for 5-6 weeks. I'm absolutely loving it. And already I've been here for 4 days and just have nature right out the door. And then this space is amazing. And the couple are really nice. Who own this Scottish, Carol and Alec. And they have been very kind to me, and doing some Tai Chi with them as well to kind of give back. So yeah, and look, we've got the lovely fire in the background. So without further ado, let's jump into today's session. I hope you enjoy. So welcome. Today we're going to explore 3 stories from the wonderful world of Taoism that can help us live more joyfully and in harmony. So harmony is a word. It suggests different things working together. When you have a harmony in music, la da, if I could sing 2 notes at the same time, then that is a harmony. And so it's the kind of integration, the different things working together. And so harmony for us as individuals is kind of the integration of our mind, our body, and our spirit, our mental health, our physical health, our spiritual health. And when those are all flourishing in their own right, they lead to a harmony of us as a human being. And then there's the kind of harmony between us and the world, and the kind of interrelationship we have with the rest of the world. And so, feeling connected to being part of something bigger, and harmony in the human world, of course. And so the Taoists, they were around 2,500 years ago, and they came up with really powerful insights that can help you and I live in harmony with ourselves and also with other human beings and nature. So we're going to explore 3 stories, and just to say where I've been studying, this is the Wudang Mountains, and another name for it is Tai Chi, which means Supreme Harmony Mountain. So yeah, the philosophy and religion of this wonderful place that I've lived with Master Gu is Taoism, and yeah, we're talking about harmony. And next week we're going to explore how the stories that we have affect the world at large, and the interrelationship between you as a microcosm is how the Taoists talk about it, a small world, relate to the macrocosm, the big world. And so this week we're going to start with us as individuals and some stories from this wonderful person called Zhuangzi. So, what are the main sources of pain in our lives? One of them is this externalization of feeling that we as human beings, in order to feel valuable and to feel worthwhile, need to get things that are from outside of ourselves. So tell me if any of this is familiar. I'll be happy when. I'll be good enough when. So fill in the dots for you. I'll be happy when I get the job. I'll be happy when I have a girlfriend or a boyfriend. I'll be good enough when I achieve these certain things. I'll be beautiful when I stop eating the cookies. I'll be successful when I'm earning this amount of money. So when we have these thoughts, and you may have them floating around your head, and what is it for you, where you have this feeling of separation between who you think you are now and who you think you need to be in order to be a valuable human being, or to be worthy of celebration or love or whatever it is. It's easy as a human to externalize these things. And actually we live in a society where we're bombarded by advertising and messaging that tells us, if you wear this perfume, you'll smell great and people will like you. If you drink this Coca-Cola, then you'll be happy. Look at all these smiley people with perfect white teeth. So we're bombarded with these images because it motivates us to consume. Consume things that are outside of ourselves in order to feel okay within us. Now we're going to explore some stories today to see if actually we can feel okay with who we are right now. And rather than having to rely on the crutch of external consumption, is to actually feel joyful and to celebrate who we are right here, right now. So, first story. This is a gourd, a pumpkin-like object, and this is the first story from this wonderful philosopher called Zhuangzi, who we are going to be getting deeper into. So, Huizi, this is back in ancient China, is a friend of Zhuangzi, the philosopher we'll be exploring. And Huizi says, the king of Wei gave me these seeds for big gourds, big pumpkins, and I planted them in the ground and I waited, and sure enough, these humongous things were growing. The size of 200 litres, you could fit that much water in it. And so obviously I was very excited. I tried to use it as a water container, but it was so big that it was unwieldy. I couldn't lift it, I couldn't carry it. So I couldn't use it as a water container. I cut it in half and tried to use it as a ladle, like you normally would do with a gourd. But it was so big and unwieldy, I couldn't dip it into anything. Obviously these gourds were humongous and a wonderful sight, but they were so big as to be useless. So there was nothing left for it. I smashed them all to pieces. Now Zhuangzi, seeing all of this, said, Huizi, my friend, you are really dumb when it comes to using big things. Why were you worrying about using this gourd as a ladle or as a water container? Why didn't you use it as a bathtub to go floating down the rivers and lakes? You really have some scrub left in your head. So, there's our first story, and we're jumping right into the deep end. So, let's hear your thoughts on this. And before I preface things and tell you, what Zhuangzi is talking about this, let's just hear what you experienced in that. Maybe that was just a story that went over your head and weren't too sure about it. But yeah, let's see what you think in the chat, and then we will continue. We'll see how much of a delay we have. There is a purpose for all things, from Andrew. Yeah, so we had these gourds, these big fabulous gourds, and perhaps them being that big had its own purpose. Be happy with what you have instead of molding it into your own will. Nice. All right. There's a use for everything. I want to plant one. Guess there's always an opportunity for something positive out of a situation. Trying to force meaning on something. Maybe they were good on their own, no need for filling or gaining something with them. Mind stuck in a certain perspective. Amazing. So thank you for your thoughts, and yeah, you've already got so much out of it. So I'll tell you the story again, and in the second time you might get a bit deeper with it. So there's this concept of useless versus useless versus useful. And this idea that we have a gourd, these big pumpkins may have certain roles that they fulfill. So, being a water carrier was one of the main roles back in ancient China, how people used these gourds or ladles. And then the minute you can't fit the thing into that category, then suddenly we get stuck and think that that thing is useless and our perspective is limited. So I'll tell you the story again and see if you get anything different from it. So Huizi, the friend of Zhongzi, comes up to him and says, the king of Wei gave me these amazing seeds for big gourds and I planted them in the ground, and sure enough they grew into these humongous, gigantic things. The only thing is they were so big that when I tried to use them as a water container, it was so heavy, 200 litres of water, I couldn't even move it. I then tried to cut it in half and use it as a ladle, but it was so big and unwieldy, I couldn't dip it into anything. Obviously they were humongous and wonderfully big, but they were so big as to be useless. So there's nothing left for it. I smashed them all to pieces. Zhongzi, seeing this, said, oh my, you do have scrub in your head. Why were you worrying about using it as a water container or a ladle when you could have been using it as a bathtub to float down the rivers and lakes and just enjoy bobbing along? So we don't just do this for, gourds and different things. We have stories about objects and their uses or uselessness. And the key thing to note is that a use has to have some sort of like predefined goal and purpose. So for that gourd to be useful, it had to fit into the small box of being a water container or a ladle. Anything outside of it wasn't deemed useful, at least Huizi was stuck in this box. And so beginning to turn this inward and to think about who we are, if we consider ourselves to be useless or not sufficient in certain ways, that is because we are basing it on some idea of goal or purpose. And we really need to question and bring the light of our consciousness and our curiosity to, are these my purposes and goals, or are these the goals of society that are arbitrary and causing me pain? Certain goals in society are obviously, useful, like having security, having a house over your head, and having the resources to be able to support yourself and your family. We live in an economic system where we're interdependent and, we need jobs, etc. But, when we have these basics, then the idea that your lawn needs to be better than the other lawn, the classic keeping up with the Joneses in order to feel like a good citizen of the neighborhood. You have to buy the sit-on lawnmower with, petrol gas guzzler that you see in the Hollywood films. No one in Britain has those, but, the Americans that are watching, you guys have bigger lawns than those and more space. So, suddenly your hand-propelled lawnmower doesn't feel as good as the neighbour's massive car, basically, of a lawnmower. And so we can feel this pressure to conform to the goals and purposes of society, and just bringing some consciousness into, are these goals and purposes serving me? And if not, do they need to give me pain? Do other people's constructs need to give me pain? And so we can bring that first story to mind of, that pumpkin has this, there's so many different things you could do with this pumpkin, and just because it's humongous doesn't mean that it's useless. And just to illustrate this, I thought Zhongzi was just making things up, like huge big gourds. What's he talking about? But yeah, check this out. This is giant pumpkin racing. So people, pumpkins are like the biggest vegetables in the world. 1,200 kilograms is the heaviest one. 1,200 kilograms, it grows in one season. It grows like 25 kilograms a day. It's insane. So people race in these pumpkins, and what Zhongzi said is actually a valid use of a giant pumpkin is, why don't you go bob around on the lakes? It actually floats like a little kayak. So thinking outside of the box, and that doesn't just apply to objects, but also to yourself as well, and actually beginning to bring some curiosity into what your gifts are and what your kind of unique capabilities are, and to try and celebrate that and ultimately celebrate who you are right now. So let's get deeper. Let's do our next story. And yeah, this is a story about a zookeeper and how our preferences can often be arbitrary. So do the same thing again. I'll just tell you the first bit and then hear your thoughts on it. So, a zookeeper was giving out acorns to a troop of monkeys. And he says, right, listen up everyone. You're going to be getting 3 acorns in the morning and 4 in the evening. All the monkeys hearing this were outraged. They shrieked and howled with rage, their arms on the bars of the cage saying, injustice. The zookeeper, seeing all of this, said, all right, don't get your tails in a twist. What about I'll give you 4 acorns in the morning and 3 in the evening? The monkeys, hearing this, were overjoyed, howling and dancing and laughing and singing for the rest of the day. So, there's the story. Let me know your thoughts. What does that mean? And then, yeah, we'll get deeper with it. And there's always a wee bit of a delay. After all, I'm coming from Scotland. Emotions are fickle. Acorns make the place get crunk. Not sure what that quite means. Having sooner seems like a huge win. Keeping things in proportion. Group mentality. Right, it still equals 7 acorns. Nice. The perceptions change the presentation. Instant gratification versus waiting. Yeah, so we got a range of different thoughts with that. So I'll tell it again and I'll give you the second bit that Zhuangzi has. So, and the way that Zhuangzi structures these, so this is from a book 2,300 years ago. And yeah, he tells these kind of teaching parables and then he gives his little explanation underneath. So yeah, perceptions are right. And the key bit is that at the end of the day, there's still 7 nuts. And so actually the meaning of the words isn't that different. And so and yet the monkeys have a completely different interpretation. So a zookeeper was going to see a troop of monkeys and giving them their daily feed. He said, right, listen up everyone, you're getting 4 acorns in the morning, no, 3 acorns in the morning and 4 in the evening. Hearing this, the monkeys were outraged and furious. Oh my God, injustice. Seeing the commotion, the zookeeper's like, all right. How about I'll give you 4 acorns in the morning and 3 in the evening. The monkeys, hearing this, were overjoyed. They danced, they sing, they rejoiced for the rest of the day. Now Zhuangzi, watching this, said this is typical. The reality of the words were not any different. At the end of the day, the monkeys got 7 nuts, and yet one set of words engendered rage and another set of words engendered joy. This is typical. Allow people who do this sort of thing to be as they are. But the sage, the wise person, can see right and wrong and differences and similarities and yet sit in heavenly balance between the two. The sage can sit in heavenly balance between the two. So we can often get kind of stuck in judgments and thinking, oh, this is really important, or oh, this person's evil, oh, I'm bad, I'm insufficient. And actually the sage, or developing our own wisdom as human beings and curiosity about how we work, meditation, in order to learn about who we are and to watch these thoughts pop up and arise and choose the space between the thought and then your response. So the idea eventually being is that if you find these unnecessary judgments, these arbitrary judgments that are somebody says something and you get really angry, but if you had slept well the night before, then you would have handled that fine. So actually, is it the person making you angry, or is it your lack of sleep? And so when you have this kind of space, this internal space to watch thoughts and emotions pop up, and then to bring the light of your consciousness to choose your response, responsibility, the ability to choose your response, then that is powerful and liberating. And so that actually you can get to the stage where you're seeing these thoughts pop up, and maybe sometimes frustration will serve you because it's telling you something's wrong, and that will indicate that change is needed. But often, 99% of the time, we get frustrated and annoyed for things that we don't need to, especially our self-talk and potentially more harsh ways of talking to ourselves. So, preferences can be arbitrary. And why can they be arbitrary is because we only have limited cognition to understand a limitless reality. Our brains are only this big, and we're trying to navigate this complex and uncertain world. And of course, we're going to make mistakes, make erroneous connections between things that don't really exist, like the kind of feeling that zookeeper was evil and trying to, take the food from the monkeys, rather than maybe the monkeys being wiser and saying, okay, it doesn't matter, we get 7 at the end of the day. So yeah, our consciousness makes shortcuts and we make mistakes. And so having some humility that actually maybe what we think and the thoughts that pop up into our head aren't always correct. We may focus on one big factor without seeing the big picture. And so again, when you take that time to step back, you create that internal space, then you can actually see the bigger picture. You gather more information. Okay, am I tired? Is this person actually attacking me, or is it something about themselves that they're working through? Asking those sort of questions can ease your pain and help you let go of resentment and to live more joyfully. So just check up on the chats. Yeah, nice. All right, let's do our third story. Okay, let's not do our third story yet. So if preferences are arbitrary, and this is quite a common question in Taoism, is Taoism amoral? So if there isn't this idea of right and wrong, of certainty about of how things should be or shouldn't be, and the kind of the zookeeper story, the monkeys, they had this real certainty about how the world worked, and the Taoists, some people can criticize them to say they're relativist and they have no morality. So is that the case? No, a Taoist can do good, what we would call good, but without contriving to do so. So what does that mean? So here is a bit of a breakdown, and I'll write the name of the book in the chat. Livia Con, Zhongzi. So yeah, she does a bit of a breakdown, and I will give you it. So looking at the universe, overall there is a harmony. If we just start with our body, an incredible dynamic interconnections, all these relationships. You've got 37 trillion cells that make up the totality of your organism, all of them conscious and aware and doing their own jobs with their own purposes. Wow, wow, wow. Going to talk more about that next week. So you are a miracle of harmony, and all the other plants and animals are, the planet is in a harmonic system, the solar system with our sun. The sun is part of the galaxy, and the galaxy is part of the universe. And so, although there's obviously chaos and disorder in the universe, and nature can be terrible at times, tsunamis and earthquakes and famines, but it's not being terrible because it's malevolent. It's just the consequence of an uncertain world, and a complicated world is sometimes things go wrong, or at least what a human being would label as wrong. But overall, we can see from just all the amazing stuff that's happened in the universe, the fact that I'm talking to you from a small bothy in the north of Scotland, over the internet, and humanity has worked out how to communicate what I'm saying to you at the speed of light and beam it to you on the other side of the planet or wherever you are. Like the world is pretty amazing. So hopefully we can agree on that. And so we're exploring whether or not Taoism is immoral or moral. And we as human beings, we have an intuitive sense of when we are working in keeping with the harmony of the universe. So started today's discussion talking about this word harmony and the kind of different notes sounding together, so all the different parts of you working in interrelation and in harmony together. We can feel when our mind, body and spirit are in harmony. You know, we feel good, we are free of anxiety and depression, we feel joyful, and we have an energy that resonates and affects the people that we are with. And so, you know, we have an intuitive sense of that. All right, so now as humans have, you know, gone on and we have civilization and even back in the day of hunter-gatherers, we would discuss the ideas that have helped us live a good life. You know, if you're chatting with friends, you would say, oh, you know what, this waking up and having a cold shower is actually great for my energy. Or, you know, I've started eating hummus instead of crisps and I'm feeling great. You know, we all kind of share these little tidbits of wisdom about things that have helped us. And over the generations, we accumulate these ideas and we then kind of set them down as moral codes and rules. And every so often, there's these amazing figures in history that take these quantum leaps and raise the consciousness of humanity by like a quantum step. So like Jesus or Confucius or Lao Tzu or the Buddha or all of these great spiritual leaders. You know, they totally transformed the lives of the people around them, and you know, we're still learning from their ideas. One idea, for example, being the golden rule: treat others like you would treat yourself. Confucius came up with that, so did Jesus. And you know, that's one of the key principles of humans being able to work together in harmony, is that actually considering the humanity of the person, your neighbor, the person next to you, in front of you, and having the compassion to see their humanity. The more of us do that, the more harmonious a society is. So, however, we only kind of point to these underlying principles of harmony. Our words are limited, and yeah, that's a great idea, but it's not like the words are the rule book that we set is actually the source of that wisdom. The wisdom comes from the human. So, you know, say for example, Moses wrote the 10 Commandments. It's not like all of him and his followers had no idea that murder was bad or that, theft was bad before God told them. You know, part of the wisdom of what it means to be human is to have these intuitive understanding of right and wrong. And so we feel it in our emotions. And yes, talking about it can help, but yeah, it can lead to hypocrisy where you say, okay, I'm following the golden rule, and I'm part of the institution that represents it, but then, you know, still be harming people. And so unfortunately, you know, a history of the church, and, you know, not to tar all of the history of Christianity, I've been exploring it this winter, is that, you know, the church got with slavery and colonialism and somehow managed to justify their faith backing these terrible crimes against humanity and nature, forgetting the basic ideas of the golden rule. So that's when you can be contrived, and where the moral rules can actually, be a distraction or not be enough. So the Taoist does not need these rules. The Taoist instead connects with their inner nature, and they understand themselves and bring the light of consciousness, as we've been doing over the last two stories, and to understand their nature and to then realize their interconnectedness and that the harmony in themselves between their mind, body and spirit relates to the harmony with other people. And so compassion and love are the kind of the natural consequences of conscious exploration of who you are. Lao Tzu, the author of the Tao Te Ching, has the three treasures. I have three treasures. One is compassion, the second is humility, and the third is frugality. Compassion, humility, and moderation or frugality. So I love that. So, you know, through his exploration of what it means to live a good life is compassion to other people and other beings, is to be humble about your own knowing. So that's kind of a protection against arrogance. And then finally, moderation is that when we externalize our happiness, we get caught up in this perpetual, we're in the hamster wheel, running after this happiness that is outside of ourselves, rather than developing the insight to realize that we're already whole, we're already amazing, and we don't need things outside of ourselves. And so Lao Tzu found this through his own kind of introspective study. And so he kind of warns against contriving to follow all these rules, because it suddenly is an intellectual pursuit of trying to become a better person, as if there's something that needs to be improved about you, as opposed to just realizing that all of that amazing tendency for harmony is within you, and just removing all the baggage that society puts on us and we may put on ourselves that prevents that kind of purity and beauty to come out. So Taoism isn't relativist, and you can still say things are right or wrong, or have an intuition. And I still kind of, on a day-to-day basis, will say, you know, I don't think destroying the planet is a good idea. That seems, my intuition is telling me that's the case, and the way that we use language, it's just easier to say that. But just having the humility to realize that, things are much more complicated, and actually, just having a more intuitive approach to life is the key. So, we've had half an hour. If you would like to join me for some movement, let's, begin to loosen ourselves and, any kind of thoughts that we have that may be bothering us. And we'll just get into the body, into this beautiful place where it doesn't matter if you have thoughts of being stiff or unfit or insufficient or not valuable. We're just going to let go of the need to analyze ourselves and to say that we are this or that, and instead relax into the here and now. So if you'd like to join me, please get up and get into some space. And check out, I've got my yin yang boots on from Wudang. Oh, right. Got a wide angle lens here. Let's see how that looks. That's a bit too. And that is this light falling again. Excuse me. I need to get that improved for the next session. All right, let's see how that looks. Bit more up, almost there. Right, so let's begin to arrive into our bodies and into the space that you're in now. And so just shake your body up and just get some movement and begin to arrive. Let's do some wrist rolls and ankle rolls. So as you roll the wrists, roll one of your ankles, and we're just waking up the body. Change direction. Other foot. And change direction. All right, so let us just, move the shoulders, we've been talking today about trying to reconnect with who we are beneath all of the thoughts of being insufficient or unworthy. And one thing that we may take for granted is the wonder of the body. And Taoism looks holistically at your well-being, as we've said a few times now, your mind, body and spirit, and the relationship between the mind and the body and the mind, and the spirit with the two. And if you're more scientific, the spirit doesn't have to be this kind of thing that's outside of life or evolution. The spirit or consciousness flows through all things. We live in a conscious universe, given that we're here. And so, the spirit is the word we use to point to that which is beyond words. Let's just come into our bodies and have some presence. And what we're going to do is just try and explore that part of us that is deeper than ourselves, deeper than our thinking mind, and to connect with that beauty. So we're in our Qigong standing now, feet slightly wider than shoulder width apart, and then the weight distributed across the whole of your foot. You don't want your weight on your heels, and so that may mean you leaning slightly forward. Your feet like to feel grounded. And then you've got a string tied to the top of your head on the ceiling, and you imagine yourself being gently lifted up, lengthening, not getting pulled too tightly, but just your posture is upright. And then you're relaxing downwards. And so a bend in your knees, don't have your knees locked out, and just relax everything down. And then we're going to have our hands together in our yin-yang position. So you may know this. If you bring your hands together like this, you can make your own beautiful yin-yang. See the S curve there? And we place that yin-yang just below our belly button. And I invite you to close your eyes. Take a deep breath, inhale, and a nice loud audible exhale. Breathe in. And you have permission to be a bit silly, let it out. Get some voice in that. Breathe in and release. One more. And just gently bring your attention to your breath. This fundamental yin-yang rhythm that is with us from birth to death. Inhale and exhale. If there's anything that is taking you out of the here and now, just gently give yourself permission to let it go and just have some off time from thinking. We think for most of the rest of the day, and so we're just going to spend 5 minutes just here and now. And if you have any thoughts, just simply coming back to the breath. Your brain is designed to think. We don't have this fabulous complex brain for nothing. Meditation's not about never thinking again or never having a thought, but instead it's connecting to that which is deeper. Having through our experience the knowing that we can have thoughts come and go without them affecting how we feel or without them latching onto the story of who we are. So if you have a thought, just thank it, let it go, and return to the breath. If we now bring our attention from the breath down deep into the body, into the heels, to the feet, just pay some attention to the connection of your feet with the floor beneath you. And then place your attention and imagine what is beneath the floor. Your house is sitting on foundations, and those foundations are sitting on the earth. You are held up. You are supported. Human beings are not separate from the world. We are not alien visitors on this planet. We come out of it. We are one manifestation of the intelligence of this planet. And all of us have a place, a right to be here, or else we would never have been brought here in the first place. And so to realize that we can have thoughts that may bother us and tell us that we're insufficient, but we are always being held up, and we can always count on that support and to ground ourselves in the bigger us. Because our thinking brains may tell us we are so small and insignificant and weak. All we need to do is pay attention to the floor and our connection to the earth, and we realize that we are part of something much bigger. All right, and let's bring some movement back into the body. You can gently open your eyes and come back into the space. Maybe just have a look around. Some shoulder rolls and wrist rolls. And yeah, I think we'll just do the standing meditation today. So let me know in the chat how that was for you. And the reason we meditated there is, yeah, to try and experience for ourselves. It's, Taoism is an exploration of what is true about the human and what's true about nature. What's true about nature more generally, and what is true about your human nature. And so when we investigate what is true about humans in general, we find an amazing capacity for resilience and strength, and that we are interdependent and interconnected parts of a greater system. And so there's a lot of power to understanding what's true about the human in general, rather than focusing on you, and you may convince yourself that you're flawed or messed up in some certain way. But actually, in your own experience, as we did in that meditation, is to begin to enlarge this understanding of ourselves, and to have a more compassionate and joyful understanding. So let me read your thoughts. So Taoism, thinking shifting, people enjoying it, and helping with anxiety. I'm glad to hear that. More grounded, enjoyable, hectic 2 weeks. Bring me more into the present. Standing meditation is always really good. Accepting feelings about difficult diagnoses, and yeah, like that's feedback from your body, and it's okay to feel these complex and yeah, hard emotions that they're part of the grieving process. More challenging than sitting meditations. Can we do the yin yang hands again? Yeah, so if you make your two little C's, you can connect them like that. And you can see the S, hopefully. Yeah. Amazing. So I'm really glad you enjoyed. Let's do one more story and then we'll get into some questions if you'd like to ask me anything. So this is now kind of a story of understanding our nature and nature more generally, and realizing that each thing has its own unique gifts and preferences and abilities, and so to celebrate that. So the king of Lu was walking in the forest when suddenly a shadow goes over the sun, and he looks up and he sees a great big red bird with fabulous feathers. It's a seabird. Now this is a great honor for the king of Lu, because the kingdom of Lu is deep within China, so for a seabird to fly all the way is a great honor. So he calls up to the bird, "Great bird, it is a great honor for you to come to my lands. I wish to invite you to a feast." And the bird, being a polite bird, said, "Sure, I'll come." Now the feast was put on at the ancestral temple. The ancestors are very important in China, and the king wanted to show off to all of his ancestors, "Look, this great honor has happened under my watch." And so he didn't spare a single expense. He had a banquet table as long as a hall and all the finest food. He had 9-tone flute playing music. Not a single expense was spared, and everyone was having a jolly time. Except one being, the bird. It just sat there looking dazed and confused. It didn't eat a single morsel nor drink a single sip. And after 3 days of partying, the bird passed away. Now Zhongzi, seeing this, said, "The king, in his arrogance, tried to nourish a bird with what would nourish the king rather than what would nourish the bird. If you were to nourish a bird with what nourishes a bird, you'd set it free. You'd allow it to roam deep in the forest, to bob around on the rivers and lakes, to look for worms, to fly freely with the flock, and to be itself. On a good day, birds hate the sound of a human voice, let alone the hubbub and fanfare of a party. If you were to play the 9-tone flute music on the Lake Dongting, the local lake, the birds would fly for the skies, the fish would swim to the bottom of the lake, and the animals would run for the mountains. Only the humans would sit and listen. Being fundamentally different in nature, the birds and humans like and dislike different things. And so the sage, the wise person, knowing this, does not expect the sameness in abilities or preferences or likes and dislikes. They celebrate all things for who they are and allow all things to be as they are. So the sage celebrates all things as they are and allows all things to be as they are. So some beautiful imagery there, and connecting us with this idea that if a bird and a human is different, then all of us are slightly different, and we all have our unique dispositions, things that come more easily to us, things that we find more difficult. You know, there's in productivity land, there's this idea that you should have a morning routine, you should get up really early. And if you're not a morning person, and this is kind of biologically part of us, then you can feel this pressure to be a morning person. But we have chronotypes, so some people are evening people, some people are morning people. And so respecting that and celebrating that, your uniqueness and all your gifts, mean that other people's constructs don't need to give you pain. So right living is subjective, specific to your unique nature. Another great line from Zhongzi, "You are heaven in action." You are, heaven is kind of the metaphor we use to talk about the magic of life and maybe where the spirits go after we die. You are magic in action. You are spontaneous, ongoing, unfolding, a dance of harmony beyond words, beyond explanation. So you are heaven in action. And as we found in our meditation, is that if there was not a place for you, heaven would not have made you to begin with. The miraculous laws of nature came together, and here you are, the conception, the sperm and the egg, and your unique consciousness came into the world. You are a gift. Your awareness and your presence and your very being here is a gift to the world. And to celebrate that and to cherish your uniqueness. You are heaven in action. And because we always have been from birth, our consciousness gets bored of it. So we focus on the problems and the small things, and we forget to take a step back and, like that eye, look ourselves in the mirror and realize that no matter what's happening on Instagram or with models or people we may compare ourselves to, you are beautiful beyond words and a true miracle. And to cherish that. So, I think I'm going to skip that one. How to let go of judgment and live joyfully. We've had 3 stories today that have helped us in different ways accept ourselves, really, and to let go of pain. And the natural consequence of that letting go of pain is a joy, because we relax into the here and now, we relax into who we are now, and just all this pressure that we create in our heads doesn't need to, we don't need to carry it with us. So in the gourd story and the monkey story, we found that judgments are subjective and arbitrary, and they can be based on other people's purposes, and they cannot capture you because you're too complex. We're trying to comprehend a limitless world with a limited cognition and consciousness. And you are valuable for just being here. Heaven wouldn't have brought you here if there wasn't a place for you. And in our meditation, we've put our awareness to the earth, and we are literally supported, always supported. And we can return back to that for comfort. A great quote from Zhuangzi again: don't throw away what is already yours and run after something that is not. So, you already are this walking, talking, thinking, breathing miracle of nature. So don't throw away what is already yours and run after the mirage of success and having a six-pack and, all these kind of external ideas of what success looks like. And all of this isn't to say that we can't grow and we can't develop, and growth is a part of nature. We see the trees, hopefully, when the weather's good, we'll be in the forest, and a tree grows from an acorn all the way to a tree wider than a man's embrace. And so growth is a part of nature. So all of these ideas aren't to say that if there's things that you want to change about your life, don't change it, but it's instead how you see where you are right now, which is you're perfect. You can't be anyone else except who you are right now. And you can't have any thoughts except those that are popping into your head right now. But what you do have is responsibility and the ability to choose and do what you will with the gifts of life and to grow. But realize that isn't because you're messed up now, but actually just that the self-acceptance is part of your journey. Let go, relax into enjoying now. Let go and let down. So if I could offer an action for you to think about this week, and is if the underminer gives you trouble, so the voice in your head that brings you down and gives you pain, that little annoying wizard that may be causing you jip, awesome. It's time to practice. Time to put into use what we've been talking about. So celebrate it, and what tools are you going to use? So in the meditation, we went to the breath, and that rhythm is always there. So it's really accessible. If you're having a stressful thought, back to the breath, back to the breath. It's always that returning. Our brains are made to think, so meditation isn't never have a painful thought again. It's just that returning to that which is beneath the thoughts and the totality of your being, because our thoughts are just this, and when we get into our bodies and the breath, we remember that we're much bigger. And then body practices are often awesome. So yeah, you don't need to kind of think through everything like, why am I anxious today? You know, maybe it's your sleep. Or yeah, get into your body, because when you're in your body, ideas of being insufficient are no longer relevant. So Tai Chi is wonderful, walking in nature, singing in the shower. Why don't you try that tomorrow? I enjoy doing that. Laughing, watch some comedy, get some lightness into your consciousness. And why not retell a story? You know, you could maybe learn one of these and share it with your friends. These ideas are for sharing. So I hope, you know, yeah, it inspires some reflection with you and your friends. And as always, and we'll explore this in the coming weeks, is if you can explain in your own words something that you've learned from today, you integrate it much more deeply, because it's, you know, I'm explaining in the words that kind of resonate with me and I hope make sense for you, but until you can explain them in your own ideas with your own images that are relevant to your life, and you know, you haven't got as deep as you could do. So telling one of these stories, giving it a go, could be a fun thing to do. Right, one last quote and then let's do some questions. I love this. Forget the years, forget distinctions, leap into the boundless and make it your home. Amazing quote from Zhuangzi. What a man, a joyful inspiration. So thank you everyone. Let me know any of your questions, and we'll speak for a while, and I look forward to answering some stuff. So when is this? This is 3 p.m. every Sunday, 3 p.m. UK time. And thank you, Mindful Mystic, for the chat donation. Let's have a look. Any other questions? How do you deal with time pressure? Yeah, I mean, like, I work hard. Maybe hard's the wrong word, but I work all the time. I'm passionate about spreading these ideas, and next week I'm really excited about, we kind of looked at us as human beings. Next week we're going to talk about our relationship with the whole, and how, it's kind of this fundamental understanding of who we are that's missing from society. So there's always this relationship between our search for meaning as individuals and our flourishing as individuals, and how that relates to the whole. So I think about productivity, and particularly because there's so many grasps for our attention, and so there's teams of engineers in Facebook and YouTube who are paid in order to manipulate us in order to stay on these platforms, so that they can sell advertising and make money from our attention. So if that's what we're fighting, and then getting all the help we can get in order to use our time well and to spend it on the things that we are passionate about. So it could be time pressure from work, but if we work well and have good productivity systems, then that frees up the time for hobbies or family or for reading. And so this life that we have is a gift, and the time that we have is a gift. And so I think about productivity not in a hustle culture kind of, the kind of maybe darker side of some of YouTube, but a joyful thing, a positive thing about making change. So one of the key ideas, and I haven't got my yin yang cushion with me, which would be nice, maybe next time I'm up. The yin yang, right? So it's this key concept, and the yin yang can teach us in so many different ways, but one yin yang pairing is work and rest. So we're not machines. We cannot be on for 8 hours just in a flat line, always on. We need to oscillate. Work, rest, work, rest. And so the way that I do my work is I do 25 minutes, and then I get up and I stretch, and maybe I'll do some squats. I actually properly wake up the energy of my body, do some yoga, you know, like downward dogs, and maybe dance, and really clear the mind. And yeah, like I'll do maybe 10 press-ups or something like that, and you know, choose an activity that works for you and that you enjoy. But activating the body and completely clearing the mind. And yeah, it could just be 5 breaths, for example, just releasing tension, standing up, breathing, and then you'll find when you come back into your focus, you are much better at keeping attention, because you're not just having this kind of 40% always on, you're doing 80% or 100% and then 20%. And so that oscillation allows you to focus and then get the really important things in your life done. And so then that frees up that perception of time pressure that you may have. Oh yeah, use the boot. Nice idea. Yeah, that is a great shout. So yin and yang, I'll use that for next time. We'll get the focus eventually. All right, lovely. Thanks for the question. If the universe automatically balances itself out and returns to harmony, do I ever need to do something? Is there anything I can do to contribute to the universe? Big question, and yeah, I don't have the answer for that. But so it's this kind of ideas that Taoism working with the grain. So if you rip a piece of paper, you guys will know this, like if you rip with the grain, that was against the grain. That's with the grain. So the grain of this paper is that way. So working with the grain is where you actually understand the structure of your life and nature and the world, and so that you work in harmony with the existing structure, so that you can have kind of order rather than chaos. Okay, so now if there is this kind of natural inclination for harmony, does that mean you need to do anything? Well, your free will and your ability to choose your actions is part of the universe. You know, it's not as if your mind is separate from the universe. You know, consciousness, it seems, is embedded in life itself, in matter itself, in the universe itself, even down to the atom in kind of a very vague sense of awareness. And then, you know, one neuron, the cell that fires in our brains, it doesn't have much consciousness, but when trillions of them fire together in our brains, then, you know, here we are, and all the amazing things that we can do. So it's not a particularly helpful answer, which is that your choices as an individual are part of the universal flow. And so, thanks, George, that doesn't actually help me make decisions. But understanding that means that we, rather than just being completely passive, it's about using our consciousness, and not just our consciousness, but our body intelligence and an intuitive intelligence to, you know, go down the path of life, or go down the river of life. And yeah, balance, here we go, we've got the yin yang back again. So balance is something that in the West we don't really have a conception of. So, you know, work is the only thing that's valuable. Leisure is rest from work, rather than leisure being something in itself. And yeah, the balance of doing and choosing to do things, but then also not doing. So this concept of wu wei. So, you know, do you have to do anything in order to live in harmony? Yes, you do, but that also involves not doing. And so then you, as you kind of develop your awareness, is to try and relax into knowing when you can just go with the flow, and then other times when, yeah, you need to take action. And a video that I'm going to do when I'm here is talking about a mantra that I use. It's quite kung fu-y. There is no fear, only presence. There is no fear, only presence. So this is a mantra that I've been using for myself, and it came from, a cycle through from the south of Scotland through the Highlands to get here. And if you've ever camped by yourself, sometimes you'll have the experience where you hear a crack of a twig, and suddenly your whole body's on edge and you're listening out. And then eventually you have to return back to presence. You have that fear being triggered and return back to presence. So you could stay scared the whole night, and every squirrel that drops every nut sends you nuts, and yeah, you're kind of on edge the whole time. Eventually you're going to have to choose to not do and wu wei and return back to presence. So when I have fear, I assess the situation. Okay, is this fear actually telling me anything? Do I need to do anything? If not, let it go, return back to presence. There is no fear, only presence. So we have an amazing capacity for responding in the spontaneous moment, and to be effective without having to plan, and to just trust ourselves when something comes up, that you'll know what the right thing to say is, and you'll be able to navigate it okay. So this idea of wu wei, which is trusting your spontaneous effectiveness, your ability just to flow, is an important part of understanding who you are, and to therefore live with harmony. And yeah, that process of consciousness and letting go is part of the dance of life, and something for us to all work out. Hope that makes sense. All right, let's do a couple more. Yeah, there is no fear, only presence. Love it. Does mortality ever freak you out? I see it as beautiful, but it scares me sometimes to be human and have no recollection of where I was before or where the path leads. Yeah, so death. The Taoists are maybe unique in celebrating death. I'm not quite there, but it's the same sort of, it's a great continuation of what we were just talking about, which is, you may be scared of your own mortality, or it freaks you out. And is that fear serving you? Does it do anything? If sometimes I think, if say I'm cycling in these small roads, and then a car gets very close to me, and sometimes when you're driving, you may have this of, my God, I'm in a metal box on the motorway, and this is insane. And I'm cycling on the bike, and wow, I'm putting my full trust in this stranger I've never met not to kill me and hit me with this big metal car, and that would be me over. So what I say to myself is, that could happen. That is a possibility. And then return back to presence, because it's that thought isn't serving you. And so, yeah, like, our existence is a mystery, and we're never going to be able to fully explain it. We can learn more about how everything works, and obviously, as long as humans have been around, they've been asking the big questions. We are not, everything that I'm talking about now is from humans have thought about it a long, long time ago. So yeah, there's big questions that we will not be able to work out. So like our mortality, and where we come from and where we go, and is there reincarnation? Yeah, big questions. But if these thoughts are giving you trouble, then just, returning back to presence and letting it go. And I'll give you one story from Zhuangzi, who, celebrates death. So Princess Li is been told she's had to marry the king of Lu, that king we had earlier. And she is so gutted that she's going to have to marry this guy. She's never met him. She's going to have to leave home, probably never see her family again, because the kingdom of Lu is half of China away. And so she's crying and crying and crying. But then she gets there, she gets married. Actually, the king of Lu is really nice. yeah, maybe the bird story is giving him a bad rap. But he's actually really nice, and she gets fed really well. She's got a really comfy bed, and actually she's much happier. So could that be us and death? That's the question. So we have fear, so scared now, crying and crying and crying, but maybe on the other side it's something amazing. Personally, I don't believe there is another side. I think that our consciousness, kind of collates in our body and is embodied, is inseparable from the body. And so when we die, the body returns back, and all the matter is then kind of repurposed in other, the fungi break us down, and then we maybe turn into nutrients for a tree. And so that consciousness somehow is still locked within the matter. It's an emergent property of matter itself. But it's not as if George is going to fly to a cloud and then be there forever and then come back down into another reincarnation and remember who I was. Some people believe that, but I personally don't. But death, we can't avoid it. We're here, we're mortal. And so, yeah, it could be something to celebrate. One more idea on death. It's absolutely essential for life. Imagine if none of us died. The planet is struggling enough as it is, let alone if all the oldies stay around forever. Like, part of life is death. It creates the space for new energy and growth, and for those cycles of life, which are beautiful, and the cycles upon which nature functions, and the amazing harmony that nature functions. And so death is inseparable from life. We can't have life without death. And so again, something to celebrate as part of the magic of existence. Amazing. All right, good question. Oh, I need a log. Yes. All right. Let's do one more and then let's call it a day. How do you integrate your Tai Chi practice into your everyday life? Morning practice has been really amazing for me. So, before you check your phone, so first of all, having an alarm clock rather than using your phone as an alarm clock, like talking about those engineers that are paid in order to manipulate us. The last thing you do at night is to scroll on social media, and the first thing you do in the morning, like, that is giving your energy and your precious presence and attention to corporations that are dividing us. And so, don't waste your energy on that. And instead, you generated all this energy when you sleep. It's now time to flow from yin, from rest, into yang, into activity. And so, I'll explore this more on Tuesday with you. So yeah, Tuesdays, move and meditate with me, 3 p.m. We're going to do yoga and Tai Chi and Qigong and meditation. But yeah, warm up the body. I do some stretches. I actually crawl around on the floor. This is one I like. And yeah, I do kind of Tai Chi squatting and opening up the hips. And yeah, I may do a Gong Bu, have my Tai Chi. So yeah, I've warmed up the body first of all, and then I do squats. So strengthening the body. We become more powerful when we're stronger, and especially for Tai Chi, having strong legs is vital. I had all the injuries, as you may know, and yeah, developing strength is crucial. And then flexibility. So just doing some light stretches, and then if you have time to do some sitting meditation as well. Otherwise, in the stretches, just being really present if you can. And yeah, so that's a morning practice of warming up the body, not going on social media and just being in the world, and yeah, then warming up the body, then strengthening the body, then stretching the body, and boom, you know, you've got your kind of Tai Chi fundamentals and you're ready to smash the day. So yeah, I can talk more about other Tai Chi stuff later, but that is a powerful practice that I try and do every day, and I love it because yeah, it just wakes me up and gives me energy, and then enables me to do everything I want to do for the rest of the day. So amazing. Thank you for joining me. 200 of you. Great privilege to be exploring with you. I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, I'll see you next week. Excited to share more with you next week. It's going to be big philosophy ideas, and yeah, thank you. I will see you on Tuesday if you want to join me. 3 o'clock. All right, lots of love, everyone. Goodbye.